The coffee cup slipped from Marin Vale's trembling hand, struck the table, and sent black coffee across the chest of the biggest man in the diner. For one frozen second, nobody moved. The man wore a black leather vest covered in motorcycle patches. His gray beard framed a hard face and a scar cut across one eyebrow. Marin watched the stain spread as every conversation died. Someone near the counter whispered, "Oh no." The biker slowly stood, towering over her, and Marin went pale. She had already lost too much that week. Now she was certain she was about to lose her job too. Before we go any further, if stories about unexpected kindness and the strength hidden inside ordinary people mean something to you, please like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Loyal Hearts. And tell us where you're watching from today. Your city, your country, even the little town you call home. Leave it in the comments so we can see how far this story travels. Marin was 24 and had worked the breakfast shift at Halford's Diner for almost a year. But lately her smile had become something she wore for other people. 3 weeks earlier, her mother had suffered a stroke. The bills were rising, the rent was overdue, and Marin had been sleeping on a vinyl chair beside her mother's hospital bed whenever she wasn't carrying plates. That morning, a nurse had called to say another procedure might be needed. Marin thanked her, hung up, and walked back onto the diner floor because missing one shift could mean missing rent. The biker she had soaked with coffee was Garrick Rowe. He had arrived with 6 other riders just after 9, their motorcycles rumbling into the parking lot beneath a gray sky. Marin, distracted by a hospital message and another table calling for refills, turned too quickly. One mistake, one cup, one terrible second. She grabbed a towel and apologized so fast the words blurred together. Her manager, Preston Hale, rushed from behind the counter and snapped that this was her final mistake. Preston had warned her 2 days earlier after she arrived 7 minutes late from the hospital. He didn't care why. To him, late was late, slow was slow, and spilled coffee was spilled coffee. Garrick looked down at his soaked shirt, then at Marin. His jaw tightened. His fellow riders went silent. Preston folded his arms, waiting for an explosion. But Garrick did something nobody expected. He sat back down and quietly asked Marin why her hands were shaking. The question hit harder than anger would have. Marin tried to say she was fine, but the lie collapsed. Garrick told Preston not to fire her on his account. Preston muttered that the spill was only part of the problem and began listing Marin's recent mistakes. Marin stared at the floor until Garrick asked what had changed 3 weeks ago. That was when Marin broke. She told him about her mother. The stroke. The hospital. The bills. The overnight chair. The fear of answering her phone because every call seemed to bring another cost she could not afford. Her voice cracked when she said her mother kept apologizing for being sick, as though illness were something she had chosen. Garrick's expression changed. He reached into his vest, pulled out his wallet, and placed several folded bills on the table. Marin shook her head. She didn't want charity. Garrick told her it wasn't charity. Years earlier, his daughter, Elodie, had worked in a roadside cafe while caring for her sick husband. One night, exhausted after a double shift, she fell asleep driving home. She never made it back. The diner became painfully still. Garrick said he had spent years wishing someone had noticed how tired she was before it was too late. He could not change what happened to Elodie, but he could notice someone now. A person, he said, should not have to collapse before the world decides they deserve compassion. One by one, the riders reached for their wallets. A 20 landed beside his plate. Then a 50. The old man at the counter added $10. A woman near the window placed cash beneath the coffee pot. Even the cook came through the swinging kitchen door and added his morning tips. In minutes, the table that had been covered in spilled coffee was covered in money. Marin covered her mouth and cried. Preston looked around, suddenly unsure of himself. Garrick told him that keeping Marin employed would cost less than replacing a worker who cared enough to show up, while her family was falling apart. Preston's shoulders dropped. For the first time, he seemed to see Marin not as a problem on a schedule, but as a human being. He told her to take the rest of the day off, paid. Then he said they would work her shifts around the hospital. Marin tried again to refuse the money. Garrick stood, gathered the bills, and placed them inside the pocket of her apron. He told her to use it for rent, food, parking, medicine, whatever bought her one night of real sleep. Then he picked up the stained cup from the floor and smiled for the first time. Sometimes, he said, the worst accidents introduce us to the people we were meant to notice. Maren went to the hospital that afternoon with enough money to stop the eviction notice on her apartment door from becoming reality. More importantly, she no longer felt invisible. Her mother recovered slowly. Months later, she could walk short distances with a cane. Maren stayed at the diner. But whenever someone looked unusually tired or one bad moment away from falling apart, she made a point of asking if they were really okay. Garrick and his riders returned every few weeks. Maren always brought him coffee and grinned as she set it down. The first day her mother was strong enough to visit, Garrick stood to greet her. Maren's mother hugged him for a long time without saying much. Some thank yous are too large for words. If this story touched your heart, please don't let that feeling end when the video does. Like it, share it, leave a comment, and subscribe to Loyal Hearts. Because kindness grows stronger when it reminds someone else to choose compassion too. And before you go, comment this line if you believe people need more kindness than judgment. Notice the person, not the mistake. Years later, customers at Halford still told the story about the morning a waitress spilled coffee on a Hell's Angel, and everyone expected anger. But the real shock was not that Garrick stayed calm. It was that one small accident revealed how many people had been waiting for permission to care. A spilled cup became rent money. A stranger became a friend. A frightened young woman learned she was not invisible. And a grieving father turned the worst memory of his life into mercy for someone else. Sometimes the strongest hearts are hidden beneath the roughest jackets. And sometimes one moment of compassion can change the direction of a life.